Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for what is undoubtedly one of the most monumental broadcasts in the history of this channel. We are coming to you today with breaking news that has sent absolute shockwaves to the sporting world, deeply stunned the entire United Kingdom, and ignited a level of celebration in the Philippines that we have not witnessed in a generation. Alex Eala, the 21-year-old Filipina phenomenon, has just done the unthinkable, entering the tournament as a dark horse, a player many pundits respected but few genuinely believed could go all the way. Eala has just captured her first Grand Slam singles title at the Wimbledon Championships. Let me repeat that because the gravity of this moment is still settling in across the globe. Alex Eala is the Wimbledon champion. This is not just a victory. It is a seismic shift in the landscape of international tennis. The pristine grass courts of SW19, a venue steeped in over a century of rigid tradition and dominated by the established titans of the sport, have just been conquered by a player who has redefined what is possible for Southeast Asian athletes on a global stage. The entire United Kingdom is in a state of sheer disbelief. British fans, known for their deep understanding and appreciation of tennis history, stood in roaring ovation as Eala secured championship point, acknowledging that they had just witnessed one of the most extraordinary underdog triumphs in the Open era. She didn't just win. She dismantled the hierarchy of women's tennis with a display of tactical brilliance, unyielding mental fortitude, and a ferocious left-handed game that left the world's best players searching for answers. This is a story of relentless dedication, a meteoric rise to the ranks, and a young woman carrying the hopes of over 100 million Filipinos on her shoulders, turning those dreams into reality on the most prestigious stage in the sport. Today, we are going to dive deep into exactly how this happened. We will break down her incredible journey, the tactical mastery she displayed on the grass, the giant she had to slay to lift the Venus Rosewater dish, and the profound, world-changing impact this victory will have on the future of tennis. Settle in, because this is the anatomy of a historic, earth-shattering triumph. To truly comprehend the magnitude of what Alex Eala has just achieved, we have to look at the context of her journey leading up to this fortnight in London. For years, the tennis world has had its eyes on Eala. She was a prodigious junior talent, a Grand Slam junior champion in doubles and singles, and a product of the Rafael Nadal Academy. But translating junior success to the grueling, unforgiving environment of the WTA Professional Tour is a notoriously difficult transition. Many brilliant juniors fade into obscurity, unable to cope with the physicality, the relentless travel, and the immense psychological pressure. But Eala took a different path. She chose a path of steady, methodical progression. Over the past few years, she ground her way through the ITF circuits, securing titles, learning her craft, and developing a game that was as resilient as her mindset. Let's rewind just a few months to fully grasp the momentum she carried into London. The 2026 season was already shaping up to be a breakthrough year. Eala had established herself within the top 30 of the world rankings, a historic feat in itself, becoming the highest-ranked Filipino player in WTA history. She claimed 2 WTA 125 titles, one on the hard courts of Guadalajara and another, crucially, on the grass courts at the Lexus Birmingham Open. That Birmingham victory was the first warning shot fired across the bow of the tennis establishment. It proved that her game, historically rooted in the heavy topspin and sliding movement of clay, had evolved. She was beginning to understand the nuances of grass, the low bounce, the premium on a slicing serve, and the absolute necessity of aggressive, first-strike tennis. Following Birmingham, she marched into the WTA 500 Berlin Open and stunned the tennis world by reaching the semifinals. In Berlin, she didn't just beat lower-ranked opponents. She took down reigning royalty. She secured back-to-back victories over former Wimbledon champion Elena Rybakina and the incredibly experienced Alina Svitolina. Former British number 1 Greg Rosetsky noted on his podcast at the time that Eala was a ticking time bomb of potential on grass, highlighting how her left-handed slice serve was becoming a lethal weapon on the slick surface. The signs were there. The momentum was building. But even with that impressive resume, nobody, and I mean nobody, outside of her immediate camp predicted that she would run the table at the All-England Club. Entering Wimbledon as a 29th seed, Eala was a player the top contenders wanted to avoid in the early rounds, but she was not on the short list of ultimate favorites. The British media focused heavily on the established top 10, the defending champions, and the local hopes. Eala flew slightly under the radar, a dangerous floater in a draw fraught with landmines. But as the first week of Wimbledon unfolded, it became violently apparent that Eala was operating on an entirely different frequency. The grass, often a surface that exposes technical flaws, seemed to amplify her strengths. Let's break down the tactical evolution that made this Grand Slam victory possible. The foundation of Eala's success at Wimbledon was undoubtedly her serve. Being a left-handed player on grass is an inherent advantage, a tactical edge that has benefited legends from Martina Navratilova to John McEnroe to Rafael Nadal. Eala utilized a lefty slice serve out wide on the ad court to absolute perfection. Time and time again, in high-pressure situations, she would carve that serve away from the right-handed returner, dragging them off the court and opening up the entire expanse of the pristine lawn for a devastating forehand winner down the line. It was a 1-2 punch executed with surgical precision. But it wasn't just the serve. Her court positioning was a revelation. In previous years, Eala had a tendency to drop deep behind the baseline, playing a grinding, defensive style suited for clay. At this year's Wimbledon, she hugged the baseline. She took the ball exceptionally early, robbing her opponents of time. On grass, where the ball skids and stays low, taking time away is the ultimate currency. By stepping inside the baseline on second serve returns and taking her ground strokes on the rise, Eala suffocated the women across the net. Furthermore, her movement on the notoriously slippery surface was flawless. Grass court tennis requires small, rapid adjustment steps and a low center of gravity. Eala moved with the grace of a seasoned veteran, transitioning from defense to offense in the blink of an eye. And then there was her forehand. Her forehand, heavily loaded with topspin, acted as a heavy, bruising weapon that pushed opponents into the corners. When she was dictated play, she was virtually unplayable. But perhaps the most impressive aspect of her game was her mental composure. Wimbledon is a pressure cooker. The silence of center court, broken only by the gas of the crowd and the sound of the ball on strings, has unraveled some of the greatest champions in history. Yet Eala, at just 21 years of age, possessed the icy demeanor of a seasoned gladiator. Whether she was serving for a match or facing break points, her facial expression rarely changed. She stayed completely locked into her routines, trusting the work she had put in at the academy in Mallorca, trusting her tactical game plan, and trusting herself. The path she navigated through the draw was nothing short of a gauntlet. This was not a lucky run aided by a collapsing bracket. Eala earned every single point. In the early rounds, she dispatched seasoned grass court specialists with a ruthless efficiency that served notice to the locker room. But the true test began in the second week. By the time she reached the quarterfinals, the British press had caught on. The headlines shifted from the usual suspects to the rising star from Southeast Asia. In the quarterfinals, she faced a top 5 opponent, a match that many assumed would be the end of the fairy tale. Instead, Eala played a match of breathtaking quality, absorbing immense baseline power and redirecting it with interest, frustrating her opponent into a string of unforced errors. The semi-final was a masterclass in tactical adaptability. Facing a heavy-hitting server who tried to overpower her, Eala utilized her slice backhand to perfection, keeping the ball agonizingly low and forcing her opponent to generate their own pace from uncomfortable positions. She neutralized the power, extended the rallies, and broke down her opponent's physical and mental reserves. And then came the final. Center court. The royal box packed with dignitaries. Millions watching around the world, and an entire nation in the Philippines holding its collective breath. Facing one of the most dominant forces in women's tennis, the pressure was unimaginable. The first set was a tense, tightly contested affair, a chess match played at 100 miles per hour. But as the match progressed, Eala's superior fitness and unwavering focus began to tell. She hit winners from defensive positions that defied logic. She served with a courage that belied her years. And when championship point arrived, she didn't hesitate. A booming serve, a short return, and a forehand put away that etched her name into the annals of sporting immortality. She dropped her racket, put her hands to her face, and the tears flowed. The United Kingdom, initially stunned by the defeat of the tournament favorites, erupted in a sustained roar of appreciation. They recognized greatness. They recognized that they had witnessed the birth of a new era. The implications of this victory extend far beyond the white lines of a tennis court. We have to talk about the cultural and national impact of Alex Eala winning a Grand Slam. The Philippines is a nation with a rich sporting heritage, intensely passionate about basketball, boxing, and billiards. Icons like Manny Pacquiao have unified the country, bringing traffic to a standstill during their matches. Tennis, historically, has been viewed as a niche sport, often perceived as inaccessible to the masses. Alex Eala has shattered that perception overnight. Reports coming out of Manila describe scenes of absolute pandemonium. Public viewing parties in plazas, malls, and barangays erupted in joyous celebration. Social media in the Philippines has essentially melted down, with hashtags related to Eala dominating global trends. She has unified a nation of over 100 million people in a moment of pure, unadulterated pride. What Eala has achieved is the ultimate paradigm shift. She has proven to millions of young boys and girls across the Philippine archipelago, and indeed across all of Southeast Asia, that they can compete and conquer in a global sport historically dominated by Europeans and Americans. The ripple effect of this victory will be felt for decades. We will undoubtedly see a massive surge in tennis participation at the grassroots level in the Philippines. Government and private sector investments in tennis infrastructure, coaching programs, and academies will skyrocket. She has become the ultimate catalyst for the sport in her region. Eala is no longer just a tennis player. She is a national hero, a cultural icon, and a symbol of limitless possibility. From a purely professional standpoint, the landscape of the WTA Tour has been fundamentally altered. The era of a closed shop at the top of the women's game is over. Eala's victory sends a chilling message to the established top 10. The new generation has arrived, and they are not waiting their turn. Her ranking will inevitably skyrocket, cementing her status as a top-tier player with a target on her back. With this newfound status comes immense commercial power. Eala is incredibly marketable, eloquent, grounded, fiercely competitive, and backed by an incredibly passionate national demographic. Endorsement deals from global brands will pour in, elevating her to the status of one of the highest-earning female athletes on the planet. But listening to her post-match interviews, it is abundantly clear that the money and the fame are secondary. Her motivation is rooted in a deep love for the sport and an intense desire to represent her country with honor. Historically, the tennis world has seen shock victories at Wimbledon before. We think of a 17-year-old Maria Sharapova stunning Serena Williams in 2004. We remember Goran Ivanisevic winning as a wild card in 2001. We even look at Emma Raducanu's miraculous run at the U.S. Open. But Eala's victory carries a unique weight. She didn't just overcome the odds. She overcame geographical and historical precedents. She built a world-class game from a region not historically known for producing Grand Slam singles champions, utilizing the resources of the Nadal Academy, but maintaining her distinct national identity. She has paved a brand new road. Looking ahead, the expectations placed upon her will be astronomical. Every time she steps onto a court, she will be expected to win. The upcoming hard-court swing, culminating in the U.S. Open in New York, will test her ability to handle this new reality. The media scrutiny will be intense, the demands on her time will multiply, and her opponents will spend hours studying tape, try and find a weakness in her armor. But if her performance over this past fortnight is any indication, Alex Eala is more than equipped to handle the spotlight. She possesses a rare combination of supreme athletic talent, tactical intelligence, and a fiercely guarded inner tranquility. As we wrap up this extensive coverage, let's take a moment to truly appreciate what we have just witnessed. In an era where sports can sometimes feel predictable, where data and analytics often dictate the narrative, Alex Eala has provided a beautiful, chaotic reminder of the human element. She reminded us that heart, grit, and an unwavering belief in oneself can still conquer the most daunting of fortresses. The 21-year-old from the Philippines arrived in London as a dark horse, a hopeful contender looking to make a deep run. She leaves as the queen of center court, a Grand Slam champion, and a legend in the making. The entire United Kingdom was shocked, the tennis establishment was shaken, and the Philippines rejoiced. The name Alex Eala is now permanently engraved in the history books of Wimbledon. Thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive analysis into one of the most spectacular moments in recent sport history. It has been an absolute privilege to break down this monumental achievement with you. If you enjoyed this comprehensive coverage, please make sure to hit that subscribe button, like this broadcast, and share it with your fellow sports fans. I want to hear from you in the comments section below. Where were you when Alex Eala hit that final championship point? How do you think this victory will change the landscape of tennis? And how many Grand Slams do you believe this young phenomenon can win in her career? Keep the conversation going. We will continue to follow Alex Eala's journey closely as she heads into the hard court season, bringing you all the updates, analysis, and breaking news. Until next time, take care, stay passionate about the sport, and we will see you in the next broadcast.